Hello, and you're very welcome to another special edition of the extratime.com podcast, another World Cup special as we're looking ahead to Ireland versus Canada. Stone Ryan here with you. Aoife Mullen is alongside me, recording this on Tuesday evening, looking ahead to Ireland's game on Wednesday versus Canada, the second game in the group. And Aoife, not quite the 1-1 draw we hoped for last time out, but still a pretty positive showing from Ireland against Australia.
Yes, Don, I think plenty of reasons to be cheerful or to be optimistic. I think at the end of the match, you just kind of felt, gosh, that's one that got away, or maybe a missed opportunity even to get a point out of that one, especially given that Ireland played so well in the last, we'll say, quarter. But certainly, we'll probably speak about them later on, but Abby Larkin, especially, and Lucy Quinn coming on, really, I suppose, up the tempo. And there was that feeling that we're going to get one. We're going to snatch that goal, that famous 1-1 Irish draw, I suppose. But it just didn't happen. So disappointing, I think. But overall, when you look at the chances created and look at the positives and focus on those positives, that's something that, as you say, we can build on looking ahead to tomorrow and Canada.
So yeah, certainly a lot of positives to take from it. You mentioned Abby Larkin as well. Do you think that her impact would be better served kind of coming off the bench into that last half an hour, or would you like to see her starting tomorrow?
That's the tough one, isn't it? And I think that's what's been going around in my head for the last couple of days. And looking at the bench, we spoke about we spoke about Amber Barrett last week, and both of us were kind of wondering, will she start? Will she come on? She didn't do either of those things. And sometimes I feel maybe that's an option or a missed opportunity because we know that she can do it and she's proven that she can come on and score goals at important times. But then, as you say, when you look at Abby Larkin, and again, something that we mentioned last week in the build-up, and we were talking about the atmosphere and trying to predict what it would be like and who would be under the most pressure. Would it be Australia as the hosts and the weight and expectation on their shoulders? Or would it be Ireland and the girls going out in front of 80,000 people for the first time and all that comes with that? And I felt that Abby, as an 18-year-old, she broke the record for being the youngest Irish player in a World Cup. And we both said last week that that's probably to her advantage, being young and being fearless and just going out there and expressing herself. And I think Anya O'Gorman spoke in interviews since that, and she was speaking about those few moments in the build-up, on the sideline where Anya turned to Abby as a teammate, I suppose, and that little bit older, maybe giving her some advice, but said to her, just be yourself, just do what you do, because you do this week in, week out. And that's exactly what she did. And for 30 minutes, which is quite a long period of time, she really impressed. And, she created chances. She set up that opportunity for Katie McCabe. She really showed such promise. And as you say, you'd nearly wonder, would it serve us well to have her on the pitch from the start and let her do what she does best? But then at the same time, knowing Vera and thinking of her tendency, I suppose, to stick to the system and the tried and tested, perhaps she's going to do something similar and maybe bring her on with that half an hour so that there is enough time to make those changes. And I suppose, hope that we don't concede an early goal and that there is that opportunity to bring Abby and bring her pace and bring her creativity on. Then I suppose looking at Sinead Farley and given her lack of game time maybe recently and just taking everything into consideration, perhaps if she had 60 minutes in her and then Abby came on for 30 minutes, we could find some sort of a balance there.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
hard.
what you think.
It's hard to know how Vera Pauw is going to go about this. Like, I mean, as you mentioned there yourself, is Abby Larkin better off starting the game and causing trouble for 90 minutes? Like, does she have that in her as such a young player and raw, fearless player? Like, or personally, I think I don't think she'll start tomorrow. I'd say it'll be kind of similar enough kind of set up to what we saw against Australia, because I reckon that looking at how Canada played in the last game, and I'd say Ireland will probably fancy their chances. I think Canada were a bit disappointed in their opening game against Nigeria. Obviously, unlucky not to score a penalty as well. But Ireland will be looking at that and reckoning if they can match the level of performance that they put in against Australia, maybe not as much of a physical performance, but we'll move on to that in a minute. But if they can keep up the tempo and the high pressure that they played with against Australia, they'll certainly fancy themselves to get something out of the game, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, I think if they can carry that forward, as you say, um, and bring that momentum, because they all felt, I suppose, coming out of that game that we played well, and there was that kind of positivity coming from it. It was that just unfortunate mistake and that penalty kick that just maybe was deflating. But the way they bounced back, I suppose, as you say, and finished really so strongly, that if they can bring that into the next game, certainly looking at what Canada showed against Nigeria, they won't be fearing them. And I think it was an underwhelming performance really from Canada. You would have expected more, looking at them on paper. They're Olympic champions and seventh in the world. So they definitely would have been expecting a win there. So it's just worked well, I suppose, in our favour, in that it gives Ireland this opportunity, if they can get something out of tomorrow, like they really need to. They need to get something out of tomorrow, but even a draw might be sufficient. Like as someone was saying, a draw in both games could even be sufficient. Even a scoreless draw in both games could be enough if the Australian results go Ireland's way. So yeah, I think definitely Ireland fancy their chances tomorrow, if, as you say, they can reach that standard that they showed in the last 20-30 minutes of that game.
And it'd have to be the most Irish thing ever if Ireland got out of the group without scoring a single goal. But hopefully it won't come down to that, and it'll be a little bit more decisive, or Ireland will have a little bit more control over proceedings. But there is a possibility as well, Aoife, that Canada, as you mentioned, were coming into the tournament pretty highly rated. Olympic champions as well. They'll be putting themselves under pressure to perform against Ireland tomorrow. Like, there's no doubt about that, and like they'll probably see this as the real start to their tournament tomorrow.
Exactly, because if you think about even the expectation from their fans in Canada, and as you say, that bar that has been set by them, the fact that they are Olympic champions, and then there's all of that, the issues that behind the scenes, that we wonder maybe would that, because that's playing on their minds, and that's not easy either. And a lot of the Irish team have been there and been through that process, where they're looking for that funding, looking for that recognition, and they're fighting that battle. So that's kind of a weight on their shoulders. And as you say, they're going out there trying to prove a point. And looking on paper, they should be beating this team. And so thinking that we need to up our game. We need to do better than we did against Nigeria. I think the fact also that Jessie Fleming will be back, perhaps, she did miss out, due to injury the first game. If she's back, she'll be important for them. And I suppose, had she been on the pitch, it's all the ifs and maybes, but had she been on the pitch, she probably would have converted that penalty, because she is their penalty taker. So I think you're right in saying that Canada are probably going to realise and be thinking over these last few days, we really need to up our game, and we really need to show why we are sitting at this position in the FIFA World Rankings and why we are Olympic gold medalists. So it will be tough for Ireland, but as you say, Ireland play with that belief. We like being underdogs, so that kind of suits Ireland down to the ground, to feel like we are the underdogs going into the game and just show what we can do. And as you say, looking at somebody like Abby, who can come off the bench and provide that injection of creativity and pace when we need it. And I suppose buoyed by the fact that they played really well in Australia, despite all the pressure that was on them and despite the enormity of the occasion. Like they survived that. So I suppose it'll be about harnessing that confidence and continuing on in the same vein as they did, and I suppose just doing what Ireland does best.
Well, barring a defeat tomorrow against Canada, I mean, Ireland's chances of getting out of the group are still pretty high. I mean, although they have no points at the moment as we're recording, should they get even a point off Canada tomorrow, Canada and Australia then have to play in the last game. I fancy Ireland to do quite well against Nigeria, given the disarray that they've been in coming into the tournament. Although the African teams have been causing a bit of a stir in the build-up, like, I mean, we saw Zambia were no pushovers in the pre-tournament friendly, but Canada and Australia have to square off. I'd probably fancy Australia to take points there. So, like, a draw could be a huge step forward for Ireland tomorrow.
Certainly, yeah, definitely. Like, as you say, as we're recording now on Tuesday evening Irish time, we'd take a draw tomorrow, because that certainly gives us the chance. And as you say, focus then on Nigeria and getting another positive result there, and scoring a goal or two, hopefully. But I suppose that's the beauty of a tournament like this, isn't it? We don't know, and it can be unpredictable. And we've seen it up until now. There have been great games, there have been tight games. It's been competitive. We saw the Philippines and their surprise result. So I suppose, as the cliche goes, anything can happen. But I think you're right. We would fancy our chances against Nigeria. So it's about getting in there tomorrow against Canada and trying to get that result.
In terms of the team selection as well, I know we briefly touched on it there at the start when we started recording. I said there might not be too many changes, but it looks like there will definitely be one in that Louise Quinn looks like she may not be fully fit for the game tomorrow.
Yeah, we hate to see that protective boot coming out, don't we? It was Denise O'Sullivan last week, and now to see Louise Quinn, and I suppose a bit of conflicting reports coming out, because the FAI statement did say that it would be likely that she would be fit to play. And then Vera Pauw, in her confidence, was a lot more hesitant, I suppose, and reluctant to confirm that she would or would not. She did say that the injury that she sustained was a kind of a tricky one, so we don't have much detail on what exactly happened there with her foot. And as you say, somebody like Louise Quinn is well used to taking a bit of a battering and withstanding all of that pressure. And she is a physical presence, and she is so important, like in her defensive duty. And then again, when she's called up, I suppose, hoping to be an aerial threat and maybe get that header. So she is used to, I suppose, having these knocks and bouncing back, and she is very strong. However, as you said, the nature of the injury, the fact that she, we did see her in training, and she seems to have come through that okay, but a precautionary measure, I suppose, we wouldn't be really sure. And then she even seems to have a black eye, so she certainly put in a shift against Australia. And I suppose with player welfare to the forefront of your mind, you're thinking, is she able? Is it a good decision for her to play? So I suppose that's what Vera is considering and weighing up in these hours, because, as I say, she wasn't committing there in the press conference today. Her response to questions on Louise was a lot more, I suppose, pessimistic than maybe what we'd seen or what we'd hoped beforehand. So it remains to be seen. But as you say, as we're recording, it's probably looking likely that she won't start.
Yeah, like I'd be surprised to see her starting, like given what was said in the press conference and statements that have come out from the FAI and the team as well. I mean, it's not looking good. I saw a couple of clips of the training sessions this afternoon as well, and she was kind of just doing her own kind of individual training. So that will kind of lead you to think that she probably won't feature. And if she is to feature, it definitely won't be from the start tomorrow. But in that case, who do you bring in?
Yes, such a big loss, isn't it, Dónal? We kind of don't want to think like that. But I suppose you look to the bench, and as we said, we've got experience there, and somebody like Diane Caldwell, who has plenty of experience. And I think that's something interesting actually from press conferences and recent reports, where Vera mentioned the five at the back and the experience that we have there, and her comments were along the lines of, we have great defenders there, but they may not be the quickest, but what they lack in pace they make up for probably in the experience that they have, and their knowledge of the game and their ability to read the game. Someone like Niamh Fahey, who we spoke about last year. So certainly while we may not have that pace at the back, we do have that experience. And I guess, as you say, we didn't want to be in a situation where we would have to factor in replacing Louise Quinn, but it may very well be the case. She, Vera Pauw did say she has her plan B ready to go.
Yeah, for me, Diane Caldwell would probably be the standout choice there. I mean, given the role that she played in getting Ireland to the World Cup, and like she featured throughout the campaign positively, and was even popping up with a couple of goals. So I think she'd be the option for me to choose there anyway. And finally, if
that's
it
what we
just,
need, really, isn't it?
yeah,
Somebody to
exactly.
come in there who has the experience, who will gel because they've been there, and as you say, can pop up with a couple of goals. The ideal fit.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. Anyway, just before we wrap up, if I'll get you to give us a quick score prediction for tomorrow as well.
I'm kind of hope. I know I said 1-1 last week, but I'm kind of hoping for a draw tomorrow. 1-1 is what my head is telling me, I guess. If I'm being optimistic, I'm wondering, could we get that first goal and frustrate, just like we did against Australia, just with the low block and with the defensive play, just frustrate Canada. And if they got an equaliser, that we may be able to pop up with an Abby Larkin special, as you know, in her role as impact sub, come on and help create something and get a second goal. So maybe an optimistic 2-1 from my heart, but I suppose just thinking on a practical level, considering everything that's going on at the moment, and as you say, the absence of Louise, and just factoring in everything, and the fact that Canada maybe will need that bit of a bounce, that if we go for 1-1, and as you say, looking ahead, hopefully to getting a positive result then against Nigeria.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for 1-1 as well. People will be telling me to get off the fence, but like as much as I can see Ireland scoring tomorrow and getting getting forward and more of that positive play that we saw against Australia, it didn't look like. I mean, although Ireland played well, I mean, it was difficult to see where the goals were going to come from against Australia. So like I can see them scoring tomorrow, but I can't see Canada not scoring tomorrow either, especially with the defensive issues that we may have highlighted. Although it might be Diane Caldwell who'll slot in, and they'll work as a unit, the Irish defence, but
Yeah.
I can't see them keeping Canada out. So that's why I'm going to go for a 1-1.
Probably looking the most likely. And as you say, if we that solid unit at the back, if we can kind of allow Katie McCabe to do her thing further up the pitch. And, it was great to have Denise back last week. And we didn't even mention the fact that Sam Kerr wasn't there, because we'd spoken a lot about her in the build-up. But I think maybe Denise wasn't up to her best. Like, she played really well also, but maybe just not up to the standard that we're used to. But I think tomorrow, given that extra bit of time and the extra training, and, hopefully a little less pressure in the build-up, because there were a lot of questions in those days leading up to it, and question marks over Denise, and it garnered a lot of media attention. So, hopefully the build-up to this game was a little smoother, and I think that they said that the time difference over there, because there's a 2-hour difference, but in Perth, hasn't really affected them. So that's good, and for us then it's a nice, convenient lunchtime kickoff, which means that people might be able to take a little extended break tomorrow and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'll be hoping to do that anyways. Ireland taking on Canada in the second game in their Women's World Cup group at 1 o'clock tomorrow, Irish time. Aoife, thanks for joining us again this week.
Thanks a million, Dónal. Hopefully we'll be coming on to discuss a positive result and hearing more from our friend Luke down under, the lucky
Yes,
duck.
hopefully. Don't forget, guys, you can get more World Cup content on extratime.ie as well, and keep an ear out for our regular podcast, which will be dropping this week as well. We'll have chats with Gemma McGuinness of Galway United, Gary Armstrong from Longford Town, and we'll be looking ahead to the League of Ireland clubs draw in Europe as well. But for now, from myself and Aoife, thanks very much for joining us.